So for today's video, we are going to discuss about discriminants and the sum and products of the root of the quadratic equation. So first, let's have the discriminant. So when we say discriminant, so if you remember the quadratic formula na meron tayo, which is the x is equal to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So the radicand or yung nasa loob ng ating square root or the radical sign is called the discriminant. So ano nga ba yung nasa loob ng radical natin? So it is the b squared minus 4ac. So it means the discriminant formula can be seen sa ating quadratic formula. So it discriminates or classifies the following number or the possible number or type of solutions of a quadratic equation that is depending on the value. So we use discriminant para malaman natin if ilan ba yung solutions natin doon sa quadratic equation without solving it with the four ways. Yung ating factoring, extracting the square root, the completing the square, and using the quadratic formula. Without using those four ways, we can easily identify the number of solution and the type of solution if it is two real solution, one real solution, or it is two complex solution but not real. So, ito yung meron tayong imaginary number, which is, we don't know the value of number. So, therefore, we are going to imagine the value of x. So, we have here the value of discriminant. So, first, if the discriminant is greater than 0, which is positive numbers na meron tayong 1 and to positive infinity, then the number of solution or the number of roots is 2. So therefore, it is 2 real solutions. The next is the 0, which is if the discriminant is equal to 0, then we have only one real solution. And the next, if the discriminant is negative, which is negative 1 to negative infinity, then we have two complex solutions, but it is not real. So we are imagining the solutions, pero hindi siya real. So that's how are we going to identify the number of solutions and the type of solutions using the discriminant. So to further understand, let's have an example of finding how many solutions or what is the type of solution that we have in our equation. So we have an example. Let's determine the number and type of solutions of the following quadratic equation. So we have here the quadratic equation. So first is, if you can see in our discriminant formula, it composed of real numbers. So therefore, para mas madali tayong makapagsagot, we should identify first the real numbers A, B, and C. Dahil yung real numbers A, B, and C natin is we can use it to identify how many solution or roots do we have in the equation. So before identifying the real numbers, make sure that the equation is in standard form. So the real numbers A, B, and C. So yung A natin is 1, B is positive 3, C is positive 3. So after that, we need to identify what is the formula that we are going to use, or what is the formula of the discriminant. So the formula of the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Then after identifying the formula of discriminant, we will move to the next step, which is substitution method, which is you're going to substitute the value of real numbers A, B, and C to our discriminant formula. So b squared, so yung b natin is equal to positive 3. So it becomes positive 3 squared minus 4 times natin sa A, which is 1, and multiply it by C, which is positive 3. And then after that, we need to simplify it. So to simplify, first is to simplify the exponent. So 3 squared, it becomes 9. And then multiply this negative 4 times 1 times 3, then it becomes negative 12. So therefore, it becomes 9 minus 12. And 9 minus 12 is equal to negative 3. If you can see, the answer in our discriminant is negative 3. So therefore, katulad nga ng ating situation kanina, or that yung kailangan nating sundin is if the discriminant is negative number, then the number or a type of solution that we have in this equation is too complex but not real. So we have two complex solution but not real dahil it is negative number yung ating discriminant. So now let's move to another example. So we have 2x squared minus 6x plus 2 is equal to 0. So again, before identifying the real numbers, let's check if the equation is in standard form. If not, please transform it into standard form. But then, here in our equation, it is already in a standard form. Therefore, we need to identify the real numbers a, b, and c. So, real number a is positive 2, real number b is negative 2, and real number c is positive 2. So, therefore, the formula we have is b squared minus 4ac. So, let's substitute the values of b, a, and also the c. So, yung b natin is negative 6. Therefore, it becomes negative 6 squared. And then, yung minus 4 natin, and then substitute the value of a, which is positive 2. And next is to substitute the value of c, which is positive 2 also. Then after the substitution method, we will simplify it. So, negative 6 squared becomes positive 36. And then, negative 4 times positive 2, it becomes negative 8. And negative 8 times 2, it becomes negative 16. And then, so, naging 36 minus 16 siya. So, next is to simplify. So, 36 minus 16 is equal to positive 20. Since the discriminant is positive 20, then the number and a type of a solution of the quadratic equation is 2 real solution. So, this is how are we going to get the number in type of solution. So we are going to use the discriminant or the discriminant formula. So next, we are going to have the relationship between the coefficients of our quadratic equation to the roots. So ano ba yung pag sinabi nating relationship? Connected siya. So may mga other ways tayo no on how are we going to check our answer. So first is we need to get the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation. So to get the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation, you must find the quotient of the negative b over a, or yung tinatawag nating quadratic term or yung coefficient ng quadratic term, and also the coefficient of our linear term. So next is to get the product. So, para makakuha natin yung product of the roots of a quadratic equation, it is equal to the quotient of the constant term by the coefficient of the linear term, which is x squared. So, ang ating formula dito is roots of 1 or root number 1 natin and root number 2 is equal to c over a. So, para mas lalo nating maintindihan, let me give you an example. So, para makuha natin yung sum and the product of our quadratic equation or the roots of the quadratic equation. So, first example is to find the sum and the product of the roots of the following equation. So, first is we have the equation x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. So, if we are going to use the 4 ways to get the roots and to find the sum and the product of the roots is very mahaba siya. It is a long method. So you are going to extract or using the 4 ways to solve the quadratic equation. So that is factoring, extracting the square root, or we can have the quadratic formula. But to make it short, no, we have here the equation or the formula that we are going to use to find the sum and the product without using those four method na factoring, completing the square, extracting the square root, and as well the quadratic formula. So we have here the equation and we have here the formula. So first, to find the sum of the roots of our quadratic equation is we have the formula of negative b over a. So dahil sa ating formula, it consists again ng ating real numbers. First is we need to identify the real numbers a, b, and c. So in our equation, x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. Of course, dapat naka-standard form siya. And then, we can find now the real numbers a, b, and c. So, to find the real number a, it is 1. Yung b natin is 0 because we don't have a linear term. And yung c natin is equal to negative 25. So, after identifying the real numbers a, b, and c, we can proceed now to the sum and the product of our roots. So, sa ating sum, so ibig sabihin yung sum ng ating root 1 and root 2 is equal siya sa negative b over a. So first, let's put the sign negative. Then, followed by substituting the value of b. So what is the value of b? That is 0. And then, substitute the value of a, which is 1. And when we simplify this negative 0 over 1, it becomes 0. Dahil kahit anumang i-divide natin sa 0, the answer is 0. So, the sum of our roots dito sa ating equation must be 0. And then next is to find the product. So, yung product natin is root 1 times root 2 is equal to c over a. So, let's substitute the value of c. So, yung value ng c natin ay negative 25. So, considering the sign or include the sign which is negative 25 over a natin ay 1. So, over 1. And then, the product of our roots are root 1 and 2 natin is equal to, so negative 25 over 1, it is equal to negative 25. So, if you are asking, paano po namin malalaman if this is correct? So, it is lang yung possible way to check if this is correct. So, first is to get the roots of the equation using the method that we have. It's either the factoring, the extracting the square root, or the quadratic formula. But then since we don't have the linear term, we can use the extracting the square root. So, eto yung ating extracting the square root. So, to get the roots using the extracting the square root, what are we going to do is to transpose the coefficient to the other side. So, it becomes x squared plus is equal to positive 25. And then, we can get the square root of both sides. So, pag kinuha natin yung square root of both sides, we can cancel out the radical sign and also the square or the exponent. Then, it becomes positive x. And then, equal siya sa positive negative. So, ang square root ng 25 is 5. So, therefore, the value of x is, yung x natin is equal to 5. And yung x natin is equal to negative 5. So, paano ba natin ma-check? So, eto na yung roots natin. So, what are we going to do is to get the sum. So, pag sinabi natin ng sum, ipag-a-add natin sila. So, 5 plus negative 5. So, pag pinag-add natin yan, since merong magtatabing sign, we need to simplify it first. So, copy muna natin yung 5. Then, positive times negative 5, it becomes negative 5. And then, 5 minus 5, it is equal to 0. So, if you can notice, yung sagot natin dito is same lang dito sa ginamit nating formula na negative b over a. So, therefore, you can use this formula in finding the sum of our roots. without solving it using the methods that we have, like extracting, factoring, completing the square, and quadratic formula. So now let's check the product. No, so we have this x is equal to 5 and x is equal to negative 5. So what are we going to do is to multiply. So 5 or positive 5 times negative 5, it is equal to negative 25. So, if you notice, same lang din siya ng ating sagot dito. So, we can use this formula to find the product. So, this is how are we going to get the sum and the product of the roots of the following quadratic equation. So, thank you for listening and I hope you've learned.